In his second letter to the Corinthians, Paul writes, "You will be enriched in every way for your great generosity." I read a story not too long ago about a dolphin who was rescued from a pond after a hurricane. There was a storm surge that brought this dolphin into the pond. The pond was about 9 miles inland, and 3 different organizations had to come together to rescue this dolphin and to bring it back into the Gulf of Mexico. But in reading this story, it occurred to me that this story is really a metaphor for our lives, because here we are. God created us to swim in a very expansive ocean of love, generosity, and care, but in time, the winds of culture and a hurricane of false promises, they sweep us into a much smaller and more confined space, telling us that happiness can be found in objects, that money and resources are scarce, and that the only sane way to live is to be very calculated and to make sure that we have enough money for ourselves and that we are always looking out only for our own interests. And as we make this choice, over time, 2 things happen. First, the pond gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and this makes us feel a lot more afraid. And then number 2, the real tragedy, is that given enough time, we forget that there is an ocean, and that as people created in the image and likeness of God, that God created us to swim in a much larger and more expansive space. And so the purpose of these videos, the reason we have this focus on extravagant generosity, it is not for me to exhort you and encourage you to struggle to get by on less and less as we all navigate life together in the pond. The point of these videos is for us to encourage one another and to really find our way back to that ocean together. Whenever we give money to support God's mission, this is always a step towards a more enriched life. Now, does it feel that way at first? Not always, any more than going to the gym for the first time always feels wonderful and good. It actually can be really hard. Our muscles ache, we're tired, we don't want to go, but if we stick with it, we get stronger, we thrive, and we realize that this is a really healthy and good thing. Growth in generosity, it works the exact same way, because as we grow in a life of generosity, the only thing we lose is the pond, and anything that keeps us from knowing ourselves more fully and God more fully. The only thing we sacrifice is the pond, as God rescues us and brings us back together to that much larger sea, to an expansive ocean of love, care, and generosity.